going to walk you through some of my Smartboard setups and show you the kind of classroom generated documents So a lot of decisions that go into how I use Smartboard technology directly reflect how I'm engaging students in discussion on a particular assignment, help us to produce. For me, classroom technologies are not plugins. For me, working in a mode involves understanding the rhetoricity of the mode, but also its constraints, how the mode and the pedagogy are codependent. Rather than starting with a particular assignment or outcome and trying to determine which technology would best deliver it, or alternatively, rather than just starting with the technology and trying to determine what I can teach with it, I tend to have an idea of how I want students to interact in the instructional space according to how I want them to take, either from the text or to contribute to a knowledge-making paradigm. Here's an example of a fairly simple setup. I use one computer to project the same image on both smart screens, the left and the right, and I open a SmartNotes document into which I type some key claims from an article that students had read prior to class, Carolyn Miller's Genre is Social Action. I actually created the document with just the word genre in the middle, and after some preliminary group work, students offered up the key claims they thought I should type in the rest of the space. In the middle screen on the Egan board, I projected an extended case study that students had viewed prior to class, but we spent more class time viewing and discussing. This particular case study is Simon and Shoebridge's web documentary called Welcome to Pine Point, and it's produced by the National Film Board of Canada. After students had generated what they thought were some key claims in terms of how Carolyn Miller could argue for such a socially constructed and fluid conception of genre, we tested those claims on the Pine Point documentary, determined ways that the documentary defied or surprised us to record students' claims. I'm then able to export the SmartNotes document as a PDF, and then I can upload that into a special folder in our Blackboard course site, specifically for board notes and handouts. This is an example of the way that I employed two projection screens in my advanced writing and editing class. One of our major projects was to spend the semester compiling a bibliography that might equip us to construct a Wikipedia article on multimodality. But throughout the semester, there was also an emphasis on students working cumulatively through other assignments in order to gain the competencies, skills, and critical reflectiveness they would need to be able to execute a project as demanding as constructing a Wikipedia article, which they did in collaboration, alternating between small and whole group activities. For this setup, on one of the projection screens, I showed my Wikipedia account, which included the sandbox page where we began constructing the article, as well as revision history of the article's draft page. On the other projection screen, I showed a document that I created and that students had access to through an open link in Google Drive that was intended to guide the work we were doing that day, which happened to be editing content and beginning to think about using Wikipedia's markup language to format our article. Both screens were showing dynamic documents, since the sandbox page was changing as student groups were working in it. But also the Google Drive document was dynamic as well. I had set up editorial teams according to students' desires for how they wanted to participate in the final stages of revising the article that they had already co-authored in small groups. But I only went as far as naming the task. Each editorial team then drew from the readings and the other work we had done all semester long to articulate in more detail what they thought that task would entail, not only to achieve a quality article according to Wikipedia standards, but also to demonstrate that they had a good theoretical and practical underpinning of how to revise and edit public discourse. So student groups ultimately fleshed out the instructions for each editorial team as they were working.
You're in Tallahassee, the capital city of Florida and the Sunland. And it's there, Southwest.